So just take just a moment to center yourself. Rest fully in your chair. Let your body be totally supported. As we say in the meditation practices, when you hear all the time, comfort is king. More likely it's comfort is queen. So just let your body be at rest, fully at rest, just for a few moments. Even on Sunday mornings, there's a helter and a skelter and to getting things done. And now we can just rest for a few moments. So as we rest in this silence place, we begin like we usually do by taking a deep breath. Yes, focus on your breath. Take a deep breath in and feel your body relax even more. And then exhale and just release. Another deep breath in. And then just relax. Inhale and relax. Can you feel any tension in your body, any place in your body where you're holding tension or stress or even anxiety from this morning? Or maybe it's an old past memory of something that can be healed, can be released. We can acknowledge and remember these things in our lives and enter a process of forgiveness. Can you sense that today in your body? Therapists and spiritual leaders and mystics tell us that we hold these periods of unforgiveness in our body. That's where they reside. And we have to be willing to walk this journey, constantly walking the journey toward unforgiveness for ourselves and others. Both an individual unforgiveness and collective. So breathe that into your space. Let that resonate in your heart space, wherever you find the center of your being. Let that resonate deeply with you today. And as you soften your heart, know that you can express love as you forgive. Breathe deeply into this space. This is a safe place to do this. We'll come back from meditation here in just a minute. It's safe. For sometimes we can hold on to these hurts and wounds and pain caused by someone else's words or actions, or even by our own words or actions. And we know that holding this in our bodies can generate physical, emotional, spiritual pain. So we breathe into that space and we forgive. It's a practice. It's a work in progress. So let's start that today. If you're in this journey, let's start it today. It starts with being willing to let go of any troubling emotion. Then the healing can begin. Breathe deeply into that space. What is forgiveness? Forgiveness is healing. Forgiveness is healing. Forgiveness is healing. Both for others in your life and for yourself. And continue to breathe. We hold this awareness of forgiveness not as a thought in our mind, but as an intention to live into this awareness of no matter what is in front of us, there is only love that can heal and forgive. So as I express love, I mend feelings and open the way to peace and harmony. Forgiveness is for ourselves and others and the world. It first starts with us. Individually forgive. So I invite you to sit in the silence for just a few moments this morning and just hold the awareness of forgiveness. We're going to talk a little bit about Jesus' journey toward forgiveness. We all know part of that. Let this resonate deeply, deeply into the core of your being. My heart expresses love as I forgive. My heart expresses love as I forgive. Now rest in the silence for just a few moments of this, into this place of love and peace and joy and wholeness, as you hold this intention to forgive in your heart, in the silence, in the silence, in the silence. Hold this sacred space for just another moment. As again, you hold your intention to soften your heart and express love as you forgive. Forgiveness is healing. Forgiveness is a process. It's a journey. It's why we are here. Forgiveness is healing. My heart softens as I express love, as I forgive. Breathe that deeply into your being this morning. Deep breath in, and then exhale. One more time, deep breath in, and exhale. Now you can begin to return your attention to this time and physical space here in this room with our fellow worshipers this morning, and for those who are joining us on Facebook as well. So when you're ready, you can move your body and then open your eyes and be here present with us. Rosalita mentioned Jesus' teachings of praying. How many times do we pray? 70 times 70. A young man walked into a cathedral, a church, and the priest said to him, "You've been here an awful lot. Why you keep coming back so much?" He said, "I'm praying for my friend, and I've prayed. I'm getting to 70 times, but I've lost count." So. Another man complained to his friend that whenever my wife and I have arguments, she gets hysterical. He said, "Wait a minute, do you mean hysterical?" And he said, "No, she remembers everything that I've ever done wrong." Ross is shaking his head a little too hard. You know, a young guy was in the Sunday school class and he asked, "Why should we forgive our enemies?" And one boy, the Sunday school teacher, was asking the students this, and one boy raised his hand and he said, "Because it will mess with their heads." Isn't that true? If we forgive, that would mess with their heads. So, you know, we can laugh about, this is very serious, but yet we can laugh at it to bring us to this reality of what forgiveness is all about. I really think as I was doing this, and I look back at other notes and classes that I've taken throughout Unity, and it is such a predominant part of what we do. Course of Miracles comes to mind. It is so dominant in the teachings of Course of Miracles, all spiritual teachings. We are here to forgive. We don't realize that in most of the first part of our life, at least for sure, but we're here to forgive and to learn the practice of forgiveness. So this Sunday we find Jesus in the garden again. He's in the Garden of Gethsemane, and Ellen Davenport, the author of the 5 Principles, invites us to adapt these experiences of Jesus to our own. So we're not here to, in Unity for sure, we're not here to embrace these as literal teachings necessarily, although some of them, we don't know that exactly how they were written and recorded. We know that they were written well after Jesus' death, but the lessons are just, amazing. So we can take these lessons and apply them to our life. So last week, Melissa described Jesus' process of surrendering to his calling, spiritual reasons for his experience, and how answering our divine call for us can be challenging at best, and then yet that's the path that many of us answer this divine calling. So Jesus returned. He's off to pray. And he comes back and he sees Peter, James, and John. That's the 3 disciples that he went away, whom he had said, "Stay awake while I go pray." And you can pray. Well, guess what? They fell asleep. So that's recorded in Matthew. He says, when he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, he said, "Peter, so you could not stay awake with me 1 hour?" This is from Matthew 26, 40 through 44. "Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of the trial of the Spirit. The Spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak." Again, he went away for the second time, Jesus did. and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the third time, saying the same words. I get those messages when I sit in my chair and fall asleep in my chair. Why didn't you stay awake? I don't know why, but sometimes I get those. So, but instead of condemning their weakness, quote, seeming weakness, he responds with the understanding, even in the most vulnerable moment, Jesus modeled forgiveness. At least that's in the story, recognizing the frailty of human nature, and that's the story. So, but in what way, it made me think, in what ways have we taken these words of spirit or divine guidance into our hearts, but chosen a different path at different times in our lives? How often have family, friends, and co-workers taken paths against themselves and others, including ourselves, including us? How many times have you held resentment and anger toward others? How many times have we needed to forgive ourselves for failing to follow the divine guidance that's we're given, as Melissa talked about last week? So Reverend Ellen Davenport conveys we are not bad people any more than the disciples were bad people for falling asleep. We are, through them, our wounds are healing, our pains shape the future. The weight of unforgiveness binds us to suffering, yet Jesus shows us another way: release, letting go. That's what we're doing in our booklet this week. It's about release and letting go. Unforgiveness can negatively impact our health, both mentally, physically, and I think even spiritually, increasing stress and anxiety and potentially causing other health issues. People who hang on to grudges are more likely to experience severe depression and PTSD, as well as other health disorders. That was one of the health organizations that talks of that. Holding on to grudges can lead to health disorders. But we can learn to do it differently. We can learn to do it differently and respond in more healthy ways. When we say we are in unity, when we say here every Sunday that we're about inspiring and empowering personal transformation in our own lives, I believe this is one aspect of our daily life where this can be demonstrated, responding, not reacting, by acknowledging our own biases, by looking at things differently, totally differently, as the Course in Miracles says. Take a different view of what has come to us, and we take inside, and we can choose to see it differently. We always think we have the last word, and we always think our opinion is more important than yours, including friends and family, especially family members. We've been trained for a narrow focus that we always must be right. And a lot of the times that leads to a hurt or a pain or a slight that we then turn into something. Oops, we did. There we go. There you go. Oh, it's red. Okay. We live in this environment of negativity, negative thoughts. The human mind, you've heard me, I said this several times when I was regularly speaking up here, that the National Science Foundation has found that the average person has 12,000 to 6,000 thoughts per day, and 80% are negative. 95% of them are repetitive. We get stuck on negative thoughts. The unforgiveness that occurs in our life, I think, happens because of the negative thinking. All negative thoughts are not bad, however, because being alert can help you survive. Most of the negative thoughts, however, are useless. So we come to these ways of responding, these ways of transformation, in what Richard Rohr calls what he calls falling upward. It's the second half of our lives, not chronologically necessarily. We are spiritually mature enough to see it differently. We don't always see things in our first half of life. We're busy with the ego in control of our minds and our activities, our little self, and we don't see things from a more spiritually mature place. It happens in the second half of life. Now, again, it's different for everybody. There's an example. He didn't give this, but there was an example of Helen Keller, who she reached the ability to see her life without resentment and do the good work that she did without any resentment, at least it was demonstrated that way. She didn't hold for bitterness toward anybody or bitterness toward God for her condition. So our unity teachings are very similar to what Richard Rohr teaches, that in our second half of life, again, that's why he calls it falling upward. We're made better in our lives usually because of our falling and our failings than our successes. We learn a lot of lessons from our falling and our shortcomings. That's his teachings, because we come to this with 90,000 thoughts every day of negative thoughts. So our unity teachings are very similar. When we start in unity, we use denials and affirmations to let go, to change, to heal, to transform. Over three years now, I've been studying a book called Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender by David Hawkins, which parallels exactly what we talk about in unity of denials and affirmations. Denials and affirmations are a form of prayer. Both are prayers. We talk about metaphysically in the metaphysical teachings that Paul Hasselbeck, you've probably heard his name, a noted metaphysical teacher, levels of consciousness that we come into. Same thing as what Richard Rohr is discussing. Victim, victor, vessel, and verity consciousness. Victim, victor, vessel, verity consciousness. The verity is a word we don't use much. It means oneness. So we come into those phases and the levels of consciousness. The transformation of consciousness, which is possible for each of us in our day lives, however, requires us to participate. The unity path, as Linda Mortella Wissett is famous for saying, she writes several books on prayer. She says, this is not a path for sissies. We have to have active engagement in our path. We can't think our way through it. We can't just say, well, I'm going to do this, but it is a strategic plan that we execute. Transformation requires an open-ended willingness to be vulnerable to the experience of the unknown that we discover when we are open. Charles Fillmore says in The Revealing Word, forgiveness is a process of giving up the false for the true. And he uses the word sin, erasing sin and error from the mind and body. So we know the word sin means missing the mark, error thinking, and it doesn't mean sin in the traditional sense that Christianity has taught for many, many years. Again, forgiveness really means giving up something, because it's through, I believe, again, this is so true, that forgiveness is the true spiritual healing is accomplished through healing. Most of us, we have so many wounds that we have to learn to forgive. Forgiveness removes the errors of the mind and body, and bodily harmony results in embracing this divine law. So as I was reading through this again, there's lots and lots of stories in the Bible about forgiveness. I mean, I counted 10 just right off different research. The prodigal son, Jesus forgives the woman caught in adultery, the unforgiving servant, Peter denies Jesus and is forgiven, just to name a few. David says sorry to God, and many, many more. So as I was thinking about this seeming little hurt, this little event of the three disciples falling asleep, what seems like a little event, reminded me of the world of hurt and pain and unforgiveness we all experience. And the world of mental health access we have today to deal with these small events in our lives, these little events in our lives. My mom's second husband, after my mom and dad divorced years later, he was so bitter. He was so bitter toward his son. Never forgave his son for he was cussing at him one day, and the reason the son was cussing at my mom's husband, he went over to help him. He was a carpenter, but he was an old man from a different generation, and his son disrespected him, is what he said. Son disrespected him. He never forgave him. 30 plus years. Never talked to him, never said hi, and his son fell right in along with that. And it was Fred, my mom's husband was named Fred. He never forgave his son for disrespecting him. And I had several conversations with him about it. Why do that? And it reminded me, my dad and I, we had relationships that didn't seem to go as well as it could have at first. But yet, as I journeyed through the unity and changed my consciousness, through the 12-step program and through unity, there's forgiveness. Forgiveness is possible for what seemingly is a little event, a little hurt. And, we learned from studying Michael Singer's, these hurts, these scars that are on our psyche can remain with us forever and do physical and spiritual harm. So Jesus could have easily turned this little event, the three guys falling asleep, into a country music song. Somebody done me wrong song. He done me wrong. How many times do we think about that? The little events in our lives. Now, they're not little in the moment. I'm not suggesting that. But do you know of anyone who has taken a seemingly small? Now, again, that's to us and that our perspective. You don't know where somebody is and all that. And turned it into 40 years of unforgiveness. That's what my mom's husband did, I think. Forgiveness, or should say unforgiveness, is part of all of our lives. If you walked on this planet, you have somebody that to forgive, and somebody can forgive you, and you forgive yourself. Now, I'm not even beginning to minimize or suggest that we don't have deep, damaging, and harmful trauma in our lives. Whether it be physical, verbal, or sexual abuse, this trauma, past or present, must be acknowledged and validated and honored for healing and for forgiveness to occur. Many, many people today are experiencing past and new trauma in their lives. There's lots of things happening that come into our psyche today that we get to work on forgiveness. If you turn the TV on, you're going to have to forgive yourself one time about it sometimes. And about the guy who's saying what he's saying, on the TV. We instinctively turn sadness, anger, and resentment when we believe we feel wrong or hurt, or when we disagree with somebody else's opinion. Our egos, managed by our little self, take over, and we start the win-lose or the lose-win battle rather than win-win. It usually turns to a memory of resentment and sometimes unforgiveness. And again, if you're human, you've all experienced this. The pain deepens. As the pain deepens, we must live with the guilt of feeling unforgiveness toward other people. So not only are we unforgiving of other people, we have that guilt of feeling unforgiven. So however profound the question, however profound it is, Brene Brown and others ask us, will this perceived harm matter in 5 minutes? Not to discount, it's not to discount this, but will it matter in 5 months? Will it matter in 5 years? The Work by Byron Katie asks 3 questions. Ask 3 questions and turn it around. Is it true? And then turn it around if it's not true. Ask the questions. Go through the journey of experiencing, of wanting to be forgiven and to forgive. So Jesus said to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. It's not just a moral teaching, but a path to freedom. The only way to live free is to forgive yourself and others. Love in its purest form is the antidote to hate. Just like light, when we talk about light and dark, when we talk about the light, is the darkness is just the absence of light. Hate is the absence of love. It does not mean excusing harmful actions, but instead choosing to release the grip that resentment has on our hearts. So that we can acknowledge the resentment and the damage and the harm and not let the hate fester in us and turn us against love. Quite a challenge. We're here and we have lots and lots of opportunities to practice. Forgiveness is not always easy. It requires intentional practice. But when we start by letting go of the need for retribution, we make space for peace. You know, a lot of people say they get angry because somebody pulls over in front of them while you're driving, or they cut you off, you know, and then here comes the police officer and pulls him over. Oh, good, I'm glad he got him. Yes. You know, that kind of retribution is not usually helpful, although sometimes we can't help it. It requires intentional practice to forgive, but when we start by letting go of our need for this retribution, we make space for peace. So we have this story of Jesus in all the ways that he was taught us to forgive, even as he was, again, in the narrative in the story. The truth is that our attempts to hurt the one who has hurt us by refusing to forgive them, we actually hurt ourselves. You know, if we try to hurt somebody because they hurt us, it usually doesn't work, and that's because unforgiveness in our hearts slowly ferments inside of us and turns into the sour wine or of bitterness. Eventually, it eats away at us on the inside. Withholding forgiveness for someone is like holding your breath, hoping that the other person will pass out. Let me read that again. Withholding forgiveness is like holding your breath, hoping that the other person will pass out. We think that we're getting even by the person withholding forgiveness, but in the end, we will find that it produces a self-inflicted wound. When we withhold forgiveness from someone, we think we are building a prison cell, but we're building one prison cell, but really we're building 2, and we're one of them. We imprison ourselves with our refusal to forgive because we allow the bitterness to fester inside of us. So we allow ourselves to be self-righteous to convince us that I would never do what they did to me. The unforgiving person is quick to see others as more hideous and themselves as more virtuous. So now I'm not saying this is easy, and this is it's not a condemnation of what we do or how you journal through life. It's a recognition that we can be inspired and transformed by the renewing of our mind by these teachings and practice these in our everyday life. And forgiveness is one demonstration of that. So in this Lenten season, we practice letting go, not just the habits of distractions, but of the burdens of unforgiveness. Each time we feel the weight of resentment, let us pause and ask ourselves, is this hurt worth carrying in my body? Because that's usually where we carry it. We release and let go, not only for our freedom, but for the freedom of the world. Forgiveness is a process, but it begins with a choice to let go of pain and choose love. Just like the teachings from the Course of Miracles. You know, the Course of Miracles says all there is fear and love. Everything that we do is based in those 2 emotions. If we let go of fear and turn to love, the whole experience changes. Doesn't mean the actual event changes, but our approach to it and our experience changing. And in so doing, we step into the fullness of divine grace, and transformation so freely is given. Forgiveness is the alchemy for healing. Forgiveness is the alchemy. We turn, just like alchemy turn, the story of turning to gold. Forgiveness is the alchemy that turns to healing. And with love, we transform hate into healing. So where there is hate, transformed by love, and it will drive them crazy. Namaste.
Thank you. How about another round of applause for Reverend Ron on a journey that we all will experience our entire lives to. Anyway, on forgiveness. Thank you, Reverend Ron. Now is time to enter into generosity consciousness. So I'd like to thank you to all who have continued blessing our spiritual community with your tithes and offerings. We are truly blessed by your giving. And if you feel led by Spirit today, we invite you to prepare your gift now. And if you are being led to make a recurring gift, you can visit our website to set up a monthly gift via PayPal. And we now invite you to take your, hold the thought of your gift in your mind and in your heart as we say our offering blessing together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. All right, and I'm going to ask the music team to come on up.